Hello everyone, in this video we'll go over the Book B Unit 5 vocabulary words numbers 1 through 30. Are you ready? Let's get started. Our first word is baking powder. Baking powder is a noun and it is a powder that is used to raise dough or batter during baking. For example, if you don't add baking powder to the cookies, they will be too flat. Baking powder looks like this. It's just a white powder, and when you add it to your batter, then the batter can raise. It can become larger. It gets bigger. So if you don't put baking powder in your batter or your dough, then when it's finished cooking, it will not look like this. Instead, it will be too flat. Our next word is batter. Batter is a noun and it is a thick mixture of flour, eggs, liquid, and other things. Batter is used to make things such as cake. For example, Tim mixed the batter and poured it into a pan. This is what batter looks like. We add the flour, the eggs, the liquid, and anything else. And when you mix it together, it looks very smooth like this. At this point here, this is when we call it the batter. Our next word is beat. Beat is a verb and it means to mix hard. For example, beat the eggs. When you mix something hard, we usually use maybe a fork or we can use this whisk to mix everything together. Instead of mix, we can say beat. Please beat the eggs or beat the batter. We are mixing it together until everything is blended. Everything is together as one. Our next word is bright. Bright is an adjective and it has two meanings. It can mean to give a lot of light or it can mean intelligent and smart. When someone is bright, it means that they are smart. For example, all the children in her class are bright. Or, back to meaning number one, something that gives a lot of light. For example, the sun is bright. Or this flashlight is bright. Our next word is chew. Chew is a verb and it means to break apart and make soft with the teeth. When you chew your food, you are making it soft inside of your mouth so that you can swallow it. You are breaking the food. Let's look at the example. Chew food before you swallow it. That is chew. Here you can see the dog is chewing the bone. Our next word is culture. Culture is a noun and it means the language, ideas, inventions, and art of a particular group of people. So in the picture here, the group of people is the Korean people. And in this picture, part of the culture is the clothing that the people wear, and the traditional clothing of Korea is the hanbok. So the hanbok is part of Korean culture. And language is also a part of someone's culture. So here, I put a picture of many different languages that are from different cultures. Let's see if you know what culture is this language from right here. Hello. What culture do you think that's from? Or this one here. Hola. What culture do you think that word comes from? Our next word is display. Display is a noun and it is anything put out in order to be seen. For example, maybe you're walking by a store and you see a window like this with some clothing outside of the window. We call this a clothing display. Or in some places you can see art on walls for people to look at. This is called an art display. Our next word is drain. Drain. And we need to be careful with the word drain because drain is both a verb and a noun. The verb drain is when the water is going down into this pipe. For example, you should drain the bathtub after your bath. But the word drain is also a noun and it means the thing such as a pipe where the water or liquid flows. So this is also called a drain. This part here is the drain and the water will drain down the drain. Our next word is fancy. Fancy is an adjective and it means when something is more special than usual. For example, I have some teapots here and here, but the teapots on this side are very plain and just one color, compared to the teapots on this side that have many colors and special designs on them. So I can say these teapots are fancy. Same thing with the boxes. This one is just a plain brown box, but this one is very colorful with a pretty pattern and a bow. So I can say it is a fancy box. Our next word is flour. Flour is a noun and it is a powder that we can get for making bread, cakes, and pastry. It comes from the plant called wheat. So this is what flour looks like, and this is a wheat plant here. And of course, we use the flour to make bread and cakes and other types of pastries. Our next word is forest. Forest is a noun and it is a large area of land covered with many trees and other plants. This is what a forest looks like. And let's look at the example. Many animals live in the forest. Do you know any animals that live in forests? Our next word is grain. Grain is a noun and we can use grain two ways. Grain can be the small hard seeds of plants such as wheat or rice. So here we have some rice grains. Or grain can also be used to talk about any hard piece of something, any tiny hard piece of something. For example, here is a grain. It's just a tiny piece of the thing, of the larger pile of grain. Our next word is grease. Grease is a noun and grease is melted or soft animal fat. This is what animal fat looks like when it's hard. It's this white or a little bit yellow. And when it's melted, this is what animal fat looks like. In the pan, there is some bacon grease. Grease is used for cooking, but you shouldn't use too much grease because it's not very healthy. Our next word is griddle. Griddle is a noun, and a griddle is a flat pan or flat heated surface used in cooking. This is what a griddle looks like. As you can see, it's very flat. And we cook things like eggs, pancakes, and even meat on a griddle. Do you have a griddle at home? Next is hour. Hour is a noun and hour is a unit used to measure time. There are 60 minutes in 1 hour and 24 hours in 1 day. If you look at a clock, this amount of time is 1 hour. Let's look at the example. After studying for 1 hour, I take a 10-minute break. What things do you do for 1 hour? Number 16 is inn. Inn is a noun and it means a small hotel for people who are traveling. So an inn is usually found in the countryside, not in the city, and it's quite small. Maybe it has 1, 2, or even 3 floors, and there's not many rooms either. This is called an inn. Our next word is instructions. Instructions is a noun and it means the detailed information telling how something should be done. For example, here you can find the instructions on how to wash your hands. The instructions tell you how you should do something correctly. These are instructions. For example, the teacher told us to read the instructions carefully before starting our work. Our next word is island. Island is a noun and it is an area of land surrounded by water on all sides. For example, Hawaii is a group of islands. You can see the islands here in these pictures. And here, this island has water on all of the sides. That's why we call it an island. Looking on the map too, you can see many islands here. The islands are always surrounded by water and they are not part of the bigger piece of land. Our next word is lumpy. Lumpy is an adjective and it means something that is not smooth or flat and covered in bumps. For example, I couldn't sleep well on the lumpy bed last night. If you take a look at this batter here, there's many things inside of the batter that look like little rocks or little bumps. So maybe when they were making this batter, they didn't mix it correctly, so now the batter is lumpy. Or the bed too, here you can see all of these bumps on the bed. We can say the bed is lumpy. Our next word is nibble. Nibble is a verb and it means to eat in small bites. For example, she nibbled on the carrot like a rabbit. There's many animals that when they are eating their food, they eat it very slowly in small bites, so we can say they nibble the food. Or here, this person is not eating it all at one time, she's taking small bites, so she nibbles the bread. Our next word is pale. Pale is an adjective and it means light or close to white in color. For example, her face was so pale that I thought she was sick. Someone who is pale, their skin looks like this. It's very, very close to white and doesn't have a lot of color in it. Or here are some examples of pale colors. Of course, they are different colors, but they are not very bright. They are pale. Our next word is possible. Possible is an adjective and it means able to happen, exist, or be done. For example, getting an education is possible for many people today. And if you look at this picture here, there are some people that say that it's very difficult for your tongue to touch your elbow. Do you think that it's possible? Or the opposite word, do you think it's impossible? That means that you can't do it. Have you given it a try? You can tell me later, is it possible or impossible to touch your elbow with your tongue? Our next word is pour. Pour is a verb and it is when you put liquid into another container. For example, Calvin poured milk into his cereal bowl. Here in the picture, this person is pouring something from the teapot, probably tea, into the cup. So it goes from one thing into another thing. That is called pour. Here, I poured the water. Our next word is recipe. Recipe is a noun and it is a list of foods and instructions for cooking something. So if you look at the picture here, there is a recipe of pasta with bacon and tomato sauce. The recipe always has the ingredients you need to make it, and it has the steps that you need to follow to make that food. This is called a recipe. Our next word is speck. Speck is a noun and it means a small mark, spot, or tiny bit of something. For example, here she has a speck of something on her finger, or the pants have a speck of dirt on them, a small tiny piece of something. Let's look at more examples. There are specks of mud on my white pants, or there is a speck of dirt in my eye. Our next word is spread. Spread is a verb and it means to open or stretch wide. But spread also has two more meanings. It can be to cover something with a single layer or to make known to many people. All of these have the same word with the same spelling, spread, but they are different things. The first one, to open or stretch wide, is like this. This boy spread his arms. He opened them wide. Or our next definition, it says to cover something with a single layer. Here, we spread the butter on the bread. You put one single layer of butter on the bread. And the last meaning of spread is when you tell something to many people. That means that you spread the news. You spread some information to many other people. The next two words, let's do them together. We have tablespoon and teaspoon. Tablespoon is a large spoon that's used for serving or eating or to measure a specific amount when cooking. So tablespoon would be this large one or this one here. And a teaspoon is a small spoon used with tea or coffee or ice cream, and it also measures some amount when you are cooking. The teaspoon looks like this one here, or it looks like this one here. So we often use tablespoons and teaspoons when we are eating or when we are making something and we need to put some amount in the food. Then we can check that amount using tablespoons and teaspoons. Our next word is tropical. Tropical is an adjective, and tropical is talking about the areas that are near the center of the earth where the weather is hot and wet most of the year. A tropical place will look like this. It's very hot, there are beaches and sand, and usually trees like this. We call them palm trees. This kind of area is a tropical area. Maybe you can use the words tropical and island together like this by saying, I went to a tropical island on vacation. And our last word is warm. Warm is an adjective and it means having some heat or not cold. For example, your hands are warm, or yesterday was cool, but today is nice and warm. You can make a sentence like this. We wore warm socks in the winter, or the fire kept us warm.
And that's all for this video. We went over the Book B, Unit 5 vocabulary words, numbers 1 through 30. Thanks for listening and see you next time. Bye!